Mage here. So I was going to do a little bit of talking about the equipment I use at High Desert Brutality and a little bit about my experience of the event. Starting out with, this is the rifle I used my very first day. That was my trooper run. I went with, this is, I guess, my SPR style rifle. It exists purely because this particular barrel was on sale. It was like half the price it normally is. One of the Ballistic Advantage DMR barrels with the very deep flutes. So it's a heavy profile, 223 Wild, 20-inch barrel. But it's relatively light as far as those go, because it's really, really deep flutes. You can see it at that angle in there. They removed as much material as they possibly could. And coincidentally, it is the 20-inch version of the barrel that KE uses on their competition edition, what was Stoner Do rifle. But this is the 20-inch. I wanted to go as far as I could, make the best possible usable DMR rifle without going to an expensive cartridge. And I didn't even get expensive 5.56. I ran it with 55 grain because, I mean, money. And this is the same lower I was using last year of my Partisan run, which is another KE Arms aluminum lower. But the upper, totally new. It is just random discount upper receiver, random discount handguard. I mean, they were like approximately $40 each. Brought over that young manufacturing bolt from my old rifle, as well as a charging handle and a UTG knockoff Harris bipod. Kind of heavy, significantly heavier than actual Harris bipods, but the whole point of this rifle is it's supposed to be my distance rifle, so I'm not that worried about the weight. All up, with optics, bipod, everything, it's just shy of 10 pounds. Which isn't terrible, certainly not a lightweight rifle, but it basically doesn't move at all. Yeah, muzzle brake helps a little bit. I don't even know what muzzle brake that is. One that came onto the rifle I had. I don't know what particular muzzle brake it is. And there is, of course, a Vortex Strike Eagle. Came in with the theme of doing things on the cheap. A random Amazon mount, which seems fine. Like, it doesn't lose. Zero doesn't move. The mount is solid enough. I guess I could pay more money if something was a bit lighter. But, you know, I don't need a really fancy mount with what is the very cheap end of viable LVPOs. It's pretty good. I can see the things I need to see. BDC is somewhat accurate. I know how to, with this barrel and the velocity I'm getting, I actually have to hold slightly under for the nominal distances marked on the BDC. But the 1 to 6 has a pretty good eye box, relatively easy to get behind relatively quickly. So, that was my rifle. It worked great. It's very, very easy to hit targets at range with this. With the caveat is, you know, it's a 5.56 AR. I'm using bulk 55 grain ammo. That does limit things a bit. It's not hyper accurate. It'd be better with more expensive ammo, but we shot a lot of ammo over the weekend, and that'd be a lot of money. Now, more unusual is this thing. For this year, a new deal was that they added the ability to run a PDW. And get that out of there one-handed. I have this very crappy universal holster. If you see my videos from the actual match, well, that holster caused me lots of issues. Which is, I mean, it works. It holds the gun. It doesn't fall out, but, well, it takes forever to reholster. Kind of slow to unholster to begin with. But I didn't have a better holster. One will eventually be on the way. And let me use this. For either trooper or armored, you're allowed to use a PDW in place of a pistol. This is the Recover 2020 brace. It's probably the worst possible option for one of these brace systems. It is kind of flexible. If you shoulder it, you can... Let's see if I can get this show up on the camera. Maybe you can see that, but like it bends. Like this is me pulling on it, and you can push on it and drop the barrel. Pretty flexy. Like, it's still incredibly helpful, but the main point to it is it's $100. And yeah, I don't want to spend the price of an entire PCC on an adapter for a pistol. Though, after saying that, I did buy a 9-inch barrel for it. Which, yeah. I mean, the idea is this is supposed to be a PDW, right? Let's get as much velocity as I can. This is just a drop-in 9-inch Glock barrel from Lone Wolf. It may or may not be out of production. It took a lot of hunting around on random internet sites to finally find someone that had one available to sell. But, I mean, they're only a little over $100, and the barrel works great. And it does what it's supposed to do. It gets you very nearly the most velocity you're going to get out of a 9mm. Much beyond 9 inches is kind of a waste. And for a sight, I have a Siley Bear. This is, once again, good, does the job, not the best option. In particular, it has a tiny bit of play back and forth. So you can hear a little click. Now, it doesn't move the zero. It's as far as the direction the dot is pointed, it's fine. And, I mean, you can see the dot there. Yeah, it works. I have one of these on a rifle, it doesn't move at all, but the pistol, the way it's mounted on there, and with the plate that it's mounted on, it allows it a tiny bit of backwards and forwards play, which is not super reassuring. Now, it didn't cause any problems. It was on target the entire time. It ran, it didn't lose zero, didn't break. But obviously, a pistol dot that can move a tiny bit is not what people are only going to want. It's not ideal, right? But it's allowed me to bypass my weakness in pistol shooting and get a much better score. So on to my experience. So my first day was Trooper. I had this belt here. Yes, I was wearing a short sword as my compliance knife. That holster would just clip into here, very easy. A big first aid kit. Got my compliance water, 2 half-liter bottles in that pouch. Dump pouch, some ammo. That all worked fine. This placard that I have attached to my armor, I have a set of straps for that. I wore that as just a chest rig. That way I could use the same one for my armored, same setup, just without having to haul this armor around. Now, it went well. I finished every stage under par. And yeah, I just felt like the best I ever did of the match. But then we moved on to After Dark. So, for High Desert Brutality After Dark, this is what I used. Which is the lower from my partner's rifle. We were sharing a rifle for After Dark. plus the What Would Stoner Do upper. Weirdly, I had the most expensive upper for my secondary alternative thing. Because I wanted to put flashlights on it and add a bunch of weight and a kind of heavy muzzle device. I didn't want to carry those around all day. So I have a separate rifle just for after dark. And that's just a Romeo 5 on there. It's fine. Big flashlight. That's a Nightcore SRT7. It is insanely bright. And it really did reach out to, 200 plus yards. I had this Surefire single battery mini Scout on there as a backup. It's much less bright, but I was kind of afraid that this discount ultra bright flashlight might break, and I wanted to have a backup. And so I did. It was my first time ever shooting a night match. It was definitely a learning experience. Overall, tons of fun. But part of the problem was it was at 10:30 at night, because it didn't actually get dark until 10:30 at night. And that meant not getting very much sleep before my next day shooting Armored Plus P. Alright, this is the rifle I use for Armored Plus P. It's kind of overall my favorite. This is like my generalized do-everything fighting rifle. And while it's not as good at the long-distance stuff, it's very light and easy to carry around and works pretty good. I did run some issues of that. It's definitely not as good for some of the longer targets on there. Plus, I was exhausted, amped up on tons of caffeine, and that wasn't doing me any favors. This guy is, of course, KP15 lower, got an SLT trigger on there, like on most of the guns. So just a basic Toolcraft nickel boron coated BCG, as opposed to some of the fancier ones like on the What Would Stoner Do rifle, but it works pretty good. I got this Jag Composites handguard, carbon fiber handguard that is really, really light, and more to the point, it's a skinny handguard. I like the skinny handguard. The fat ones don't seem to fit my hands in the way I want to be quite as well. And that is, of course, a Ballistic Advantage pencil barrel, same as on the What Would Stoner Do upper. Muzzle device on the front is not the world's greatest muzzle brake, but it is 1 ounce. So it's a muzzle brake. It does a little bit of muzzle brake stuff. Not as good as some of the big boys, but it is very light. And keeping with that theme of trying to keep things nice and light, I got a carbon fiber bipod. Yes, it's an Amazon carbon fiber bipod. It's fine. It's a Harris knockoff. It's quite light. It did the job. This is also a direct M-LOK mount on there, which, once again, shaves a little bit more weight over ones that need you to attach a rail segment and then attach the rail. This is simply noticeably lighter mounting hardware. Back here, optic-wise, I got a PA Microprism 3X. Fantastic, gigantic eye box. I mean, I could actually put my head behind the stock and still see through it. I mean, that's not ideal, not the best light picture there, but you can use it with your eye anywhere from here all the way back to here. You can still see your reticle, and you can still potentially hit targets. Very nice, useful BDC. I love that thing. And it's also small and light. For some of the close range stuff, which I did use on a few of the stages, have another Siley Bear. Once again, no problems with it. In the rifle mounting, it doesn't have any of that moving around like it did on the pistol one. The mounting plate, potentially it's different, I don't know. Or just the fact that it's not on a reciprocating slide, that might be doing it. And the one other weird thing that's kind of on here is, because I just want to try it, and also, once again, it was very light. Strike Industries latchless charging handle. And of course, like every rifle I put together for myself, no dust cover. Which is what it is, I suppose. Part of it being that these are all used at matches where either you are shooting the rifle or there's a chamber flag in it, and you, at no point over the entire course of the match can you ever close your dust cover. You just can't. It's prohibited by the rules. In effect, I guess you could close it for the few seconds between getting ready to fire and starting the course of fire, but why bother? Overall, I love this rifle. It's great. It is not quite as good at the long-range stuff, and my lack of sleep did not help there at all. With my Armored Plus P run, I did run that same Glock on a stick, which, while the cheapest, lowest quality version of many of the stuff on here, it worked, and I did well on my pistol shooting, far better than if I was just using a Glock as a Glock. Armor-wise, been using the same thing I did before. If you've seen it in my old videos, this is a LA Police Gear Atlas plate carrier. I've had it for years. It certainly is well made in that it hasn't fallen apart despite lots of abuse. Design's kind of archaic. I wouldn't say I like design that much. It has probably twice as much fabric in it as it actually needs. Got a little placard on the front, makes it easy to move my stuff around. The one thing I did add for this year was ice fence pontoons, which did help with the heat a bit. Bit more comfort. Use the same belt both days. For my armored run, I got this FMA bump helmet. It's fine. It is quite comfortable. It's quite light. It's cheap. It doesn't cause me any problems. Got this little camera mount there, because there were some stages where you couldn't have a camera operator with you, and including all of After Dark. So that's all my stuff. It was a fun event. Did very good on my Trooper run, from my point of view. Did okay After Dark, did okay in Armored. I'd never shot a night match before. I was exhausted for my Armored run. Not too bad. And so much fun.